Hi, it's Swan here and welcome to my channel Catagania. So today I'm going to do another art journal, playtime, in my homemade journal that is made from 12 by 12 papers. So I'm going to try to create a page using just 3 colours. So with this I've used some of the little birdie colours in a blue, teal and purple. But first I'm actually just going to add some blocks of black gesso as a dark area for the background. So I'm just putting them in 3 places, as I do with most of my items. I use the power of 3. And what you saw there was a new stencil I've just got, and I thought I'd add it to this particular art piece. So I'm going to actually hide the background that's there. You may see a little bit, but I'm not fussed about it. It's already been pre-conditioned with clear gesso, so I've actually got some beautiful tooth in it, so it will hold these acrylic paints really well. Now the little birdie one is a chalk based paint, so it actually will dry quite matte. As I'm actually adding the Montmartre titanium white dimensions paint, it will add a little bit more gloss to it, as that has a slight gloss finish to it. So I'm actually trying to blend as much as I can with these colours, and I'm using my Dina Wakley brush, the larger one, to spread the colours out as best I can through there. And I've actually sped this up, so it's actually sped it about 4 times, so I actually don't paint this fast. Now this stencil you see here, I actually cut out myself with my silhouette. I've got some stencil sheets, and I've just been trying to get some homemade stencils made up. And this is one I used as a tester, as it's got a lot of shaping. It was actually from a card template, so it was actually one where you actually had a clear front, like word's gone. So anyway, so it's part of a card feature, so I just cut that off and changed it to suit the need, and I thought it actually suited this particular layout anyway. So I'll just keep on adding more colours. I know it pushes back what I've already got behind, but don't stress, it all comes fine in the long run. It's just how the game's played. And of course you get to a stage where you'll go, oh, I should have just left that, I've just lost everything I just had. Yeah, we go through those stages with most of these type of mixed media art pieces. It's just what happens. You get so excited, you get involved, you love the flow of the actual acrylics. So of course I try to dry, if the paint hasn't already dried, I do try to dry in between layers. This will actually set it, and so what I've actually created in the background will stay there. It shouldn't be able to lift any more of the acrylic paints, as it's already been set. So I'm now coming in with the titanium white dimensions paint from Montmartre, and I'm just using a makeup sponge and I'm dabbing it through that stencil. It's got a gorgeous look, and as you've seen, we had some escape pieces of white there, I think, or maybe part of the actual stencil, so that's fine. I added a nice little background there, and again I'm coming back in with some more paint. I don't know why, I just decided to just come in, but I actually thought this white was very in your face, so I do send that back a bit with some of the colours, which changed the tone, as it made those colours that I'm using lighter. As when you use black, you'll darken and shade your acrylic colours, but if you add white or use white behind it, it will actually lighten, and it's a nice effect to actually have, and it brings those colours forward a little bit, which I found quite interesting. So I'm just adding some more colours. You can actually see, even though I've painted over the last pull I did with that stencil, you can actually still see in the background. So now I decided, even though my brush is wet with paint, I'm actually grabbing just some of the white acrylic, and I'm actually kind of semi-dry brushing it. So I'm actually very lightly, so it's it's only touching the page a little bit, and I'm just kind of rubbing it over the actual background, which is bringing up some of the textures that particular stencil created. So now I'm just moving some of the paint that's left over into the journal to do a finished page. Possibly should get myself another journal to do this with, but I'm using this one at the moment. Here I'm just cleaning off the page prior that's actually kind of adopted some of the colours, because it's the acrylics with the sheet behind it actually moves. So now I'm bringing in some of the love hearts from this new stencil, and I'm using the Kazaz Black ink pad. It's actually quite a nice dark ink, and it's very wet, so it actually adds the colour quickly. So I thought I'd bring out my Kaiser Craft, so it was Kaiser Craft, sorry. Kaiser Craft ink pads that I do have of the same colours as what I've just used. And I find these ink pads quite frustrating. They kind of, they're wettish, but they haven't got enough oomph in the colour range. So while in some places you can just see it with this darker teal, it's not doing enough from my point of view to actually be bringing out what I wanted and using them. It possibly would have been great over white actual paint, but because it was going over the same colours, it just disappeared. And even using a colour that was different over, like the teal over the purple, it only showed briefly. I do know though, one bonus of the Kaiser Craft actual inks is they actually stay wet for a while, so you can actually use them and then emboss them. So if you had some white or the same colour embossing powder, you could actually emboss with them. So now I've just dragged that white ink over the page, and I've actually used the whole pad rather than an actual blending tool to actually push it through some of the beehive print that's on that particular stencil. So that came out quite well, so it's there in the background. So with that, I'm going to try to find a focal point. So what I've decided on is this Kazaz Mandala actual stamp, and I'll get my stamping pad out, and I'm going to try to use the cardboard that I had the actual stencil in. So I'm using the archival ink. I'm using the smaller pad as it's easier to do, and silly me, don't use your stamp pad over your actual journal. Doesn't work. So now what did I do? I moved and shifted the paper. The paper was out of whack and it wasn't in the same place, so I now have to grab a new piece of card and I'll start this again. So using that stamp, I push in, and of course the magnet got the way, so I was able to do. So I'm going to re-ink and give it just to bring those colours back through. But while I was stamping, I had another thought, and I'm now going to grab my embossing ink and I'm going to emboss it with black. Sometimes I think we've all experienced, sometimes you miss a couple of spots. So the bonus of doing it with the black is I've already inked with black. I've now gone over with the embossing ink, which is the Versamark one. Therefore, any gaps won't be obvious as it was already black. So I'm doing a higher line to do the actual, what I'm going to do next with this particular focal point. So I'm just heating up the embossing powder here, and then I'm going to come in with some gelatos of the same colour range again. So I'm actually sticking as close to those three colours as I can, but using white and black as any shading and highlights. So once that's actually set, I'm going to fussy cut yeah, I always say I'm not going to do it, but I end up fussy cutting at some point. So here I am finding the colours, and I'm trying to match them up to the 3 colours from Little Birdie. So what I will do is I'm actually going to clean off this mat that I've been using. This is actually came with a pack of my gelato, so it's actually the silicone mat that comes with one of the packs of gelatos, and it's actually it's been coming in quite handy. I know I've been using my gel mat, but this one, as it's just silicone, I can do this type of blending and using the gelatos as watercolours rather than trying to use it straight onto the piece. I can actually just use a brush and bring it in like you would a watercolour, and it's actually worked quite well. So you can just, all you do is scrub that, and you can do it on other surfaces, of course, like your glass mat, which I've got a big glass mat underneath my workstation, and you just rub it on the surface, add a bit of water, and it becomes a watercolour. So anything like that you can, any of those type of gel sticks that you have, and as you know I've got a few different ones myself, you just rub it onto the surface, add some water, and there's your watercolour. Even the oil pastels I've got that are water soluble as well, I can use. So I'm also using the black again, as I would with the others. So what I decided, because I was actually using metallic in those 3 colours, in the green, the blue and the purple, I'm actually bringing in, I know it's probably breaking the rule I was bringing myself in, but I've added it to the black. So I've added some silver to the black to add some metallic glint in that particular that area. So it would be similar to adding the watercolour iridescent additive that you can add to watercolours to make some metallics. I have got one that's used for the acrylics, but I haven't experimented with it using it with a watercolour water active feature. So I'll finish all this off, and then I'll probably give it a heat, and then I'm going to fussy cut that out, and I will work out where I'm going to stick it on my layer. So as you know, I've been a bit slow in getting this particular video out. The first time I done it, I had it totally edited. I cut out my mistake with the actual stamping. I'd actually cut out the drying of the pages with the heat gun. I trimmed it right down, and then I walked away from my computer. When I came back, I'd found the program had crashed. The video card I replaced my old one with hasn't got the RAM that my previous one did, so it has battles. If I do too many projects that use the RAM, it's not handling it, and so it crashed. That simple. So I will at some point have to replace this video card with another one. I've just got to do the research I need and make sure it'll go with the motherboard I've got. But it's not highly important. It just means I have to remember not to do other things in the background while I'm editing or exporting the program. While I'm editing, it's not so bad. I do get some slagging and delay and stuff, but it's not that bad. So I'm really liking how this mandala has turned out, and as I said, it's a Kazaz product. I actually brought this while I was a consultant for Kazaz. I'm not sure if it's still available, but I dare say if you went across to the Kazaz website and had a look, you might be able to see if it's still there. But I do know there's a lot of mandala stamps out there, so any mandala stamp of this size would be ideal for a similar project if you'd like to give it a go. So yeah, kind of takes your time, even though it's sped up. Doing this sort of fine painting kind of takes a bit of time. So I'm now coming in with my white gel pen, my Uniball one, and I'm just going through the lines that the gaps that I've actually left white, and I'm just going over with this gel pen which actually, any of the areas where I went outside the lines, it does happen. It's not always easy to do. I've gone over with the white and will actually bring that a bit more forward. So now just giving it a dry because the gel pen came across a wet spot and it doesn't like it. So I thought I'd better give it a dry and start that again. So one thing I learnt watching a Tim Holtz is the fact of when you're actually using your heat gun to lift the paper, as when you've got it left on your surface, like for embossing and stuff, if you've got it left totally on your surface, the gun actually heats also the area, your table, your space. So if you actually lift it a little bit so it's off the actual table, the heat gun will actually be more effective and quicker to heat the embossing powder. So my thought then was it would actually be quicker to dry your artwork if you actually lift it. So I just showed you the actual iridescentness that had a little bit of metallic. I should have probably done a freeze frame there, but I'm just going to continue with my voiceover and just leave that alone for the minute. So now that it's dry and it's cut out, I'm going back over with the gel pen and going over the white areas. As you can see, it's slowly making it pop a little bit, and the reason I keep stopping is I hit some of the actual gelato, and gelato being that jelly kind of waxy feel, the gel pen really doesn't overly like it, so I've just been giving it the ball a bit of a rub just to clean that off as I'm going along. So I'll now bring in my layout and I'm putting it on here, seeing where I think, and it goes really nice with the flower there, and I think it really needs to be on the right hand side of that particular layout, but it's going to be blank. So this pack with the mandala came with 2 other stamps, the medium one and a smaller one. So what I decided I'd do is I'd put them onto some deli paper, which I've got here, and just do it with the archival ink. I'm not colouring them in, I'm just going to have them as they are. So what I'm going to do is grab a brush with some water and just go around it and use that to tear the page. This is great for any tissue or any of that type of fibre you're using. If you wet it with your brush, it allows you to tear it without actually tearing where you don't want to be torn. So I'm just positioning, sorry it's out of frame a little bit, I'm just getting the black Posca pen so I can go around the edge of this particular mandala so you can't see the white core of that actual paper that I used. It kind of stands out if you don't quite do that. It just gives it any type of die cut out or anything that's got white cardstock. You will actually see the white core from where it's printed. So going around with a paint pen or a archival inky pen of some sort that's able to, with a brush tip, go round, it will actually give you just a little bit more pop with that. So I'm just looking for some wording, and I'm using one of the sheets that I actually created, and I'm just cutting out 3 that I like and possibly will go with this effect. So I'm just looking for my gel medium, and I'm going to put a lot there and then put it all over the actual mandalas here, and I'm overlapping as well just a little bit so they're all like a family going onto the page. As you see, I'm really using quite a bit of gel medium and I go over that quite a bit. So now I'll get ready to put on the actual mandala, and I think it'll go there. No, I think I'll go there. Now bring it up into camera range a bit. So I just have to remember where it goes. So I'm actually now using the actual, I think it's a different gel. I think it's, not sure, I think it might be Liquitex gel medium, so it's actually the thicker one, and I'm just using one of my rollers just to make sure it's in. Now I found that was too far over, even though it looks like it's on the center. Just that round bit on the side there was actually where the part was. So now when I open and shut it, it's actually got a little bit of a rise on that spot, so I'm going to have to cut through that and relay it so it's sitting on the other side, so it doesn't have that it comes away. So I'm just cutting down some of the wordings to put the words on, and just going around the edge with the archival ink and trying to work out where that's going. So I decided to put craft is dreaming and creating is freedom. Okay, so now I'm just going to go round the mandala with white, and look how much that makes it really pop forward. It's quite amazing when you think about it, because it's got such dark, it really made it pop. But I found that it wasn't quite, the gel pen might be running out, so it wasn't quite bringing out the white. So I got one of the Tool Art white paint pens out, and the Tool Art ones are really good. I'm really enjoying using them. I've now got a larger pack of multicolours, which are really great. It would have been great to use on this project, because I would have had those 3 colours in both that size pen and a larger one. So now I'm going through and doing a little different edge than I've done before. I'm kind of making it swirly and curvy, and then I'm going to go over. It's a trick that I learnt now. Who did I see do this? I'm not sure. I will try to find out, because I don't like doing things without letting you know who I learnt the little trick from. But it's kind of highlights a little bit. It's almost like a calligraphy edition, where you're actually doing just those little embellishments to enhance what you're doing. So just having that second line coming through, and it just gives that little bit more depth. So now I thought I'd add some dangles with some hearts coming down off that top hanger, and I'm using the stencil to get those hearts right. So made it a little bit easier, and I didn't have to draw them, I just coloured in, which is great. So I'm also going to go in on some of the other items, so which I'm using the little hexagon, and I'm actually colouring them in as well, just to bring them up in little pops. So it's just adding a couple of little bit of extra textures into the foreground. So, and using a stencil to colour in with one of your paint pens just makes it so much easier to actually get that pop without doing what has happened there. Just have to be careful not to drag your actual stencil off. So I was lucky I had that little brush on hand and some water and a thing, and I just picked it up like you would if you pick up extra water paint. So that worked quite well. Excuse me. And so I think I'm almost finished with this. If I actually had, I reckon, pure white embossing powder, I probably would have embossed those particular hexagons and actually made them have a little bit more of a gloss to it. So here I'm using the Dina Wakley gloss white spray and just giving it a shake. Now I'm looking at the other wordings that I had, because I did think about adding them as well, like follow your heart, and what was the other one I had? Am I going to put that on? Create every day. So I'm trying to decide if I want them on there. No, it didn't. It worked fine the way it is. So this is my final layout. I've made a mess as usual. I'm just cleaning up. I decided I'm going to add little balls on the end of those lines, because they kind of went nowhere, and I'm just adding just a little round at the end, just kind of added like a flower stamen effect to those particular lines, and then just highlighting my wording. And again, I'm using one of those Tool Art paint pens there. A bit more doodling. Now, have I got my date stamp? Yes, it looks like I'm getting my date stamp ready, and there we go. So this piece is finished. Here is my layout. That one's just a glossy gel pen, so I'm still fiddling. But all done now. So thank you for coming, and happy crafting. So I hope you like this journal layout, and please click like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. And it would be really great if you left a comment so I know I'm working my way through the right way here. Thank you, and have a good day. Bye.